Hi, PJ Scott here with another Veterans Forum. I'm a Navy Waves vet. I put my hand up in 71 and I got out in 79. I am so pleased to let my audience know I have a kindred spirit here. She's a little younger, so I don't think she made it into the waves, but she's a Navy woman. And I'm so happy to introduce Melinda Larson to our Veterans Forum today. Welcome, Melinda.
Thank you, PJ. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's good to have another female on the set. But of course, most vets are men, and so I do a great deal of men, obviously. But it's nice to have a woman on the set every once in a while.
Thank you. We're about 10%, huh?
Mm-hmm. Actually, when I went in, I think we could only be 3 or 4% of the total. So I think the fact that there's no draft, I mean, in 71, there was still a draft. So men got drafted, where nowadays we don't have a draft, so they allow more women in, I'm sure. They'd have to. Well, do you want to talk about NES Lemoore, where you're at now, or your personal history? We're going to try to get to both.
Let's start with the base. I think that that's more important.
Okay, all right. Well, you are stationed at NAS. That stands for Naval Air Station, for those of you who don't speak Navy lingo. So let us know about Lemoore.
Well, Naval Air Station Lemoore, it's about 40 miles southwest of here, and we're the Pacific Fleet's home base for the Pacific Fleet's Strike Fighter Force, meaning we have about 275 F-18s. They train at Naval Air Station Lemoore. Naval Air Station Lemoore, because of the way the airfield is situated, most can easily mimic the flight patterns they need on aircraft carriers, so it's really effective training. And when they're not training or at home, they go out to the aircraft carriers for 6 to 9 months is becoming the new norm for deployments.
Right.
So that's what we're doing. We have 16 F-18 squadrons.
How many squadrons?
16.
Oh, wow.
About 10, 12 jets per squadron. And then
Okay.
you have the Fleet Replacement Squadron, which is the training squadron. That's who has the bulk of the jets.
Now, what different aircraft carriers do they get on?
They'll go the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Ronald Reagan. Let's see who else is on this coast. There was some home basing ships.
In other words, they're on a multiple of aircraft carriers.
Yes.
These airplanes just don't go to one single aircraft carrier.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And
Good.
there are East Coast squadrons. They go on the East Coast-based carriers,
right.
and we go on the West Coast carriers.
Right.
And next year we'll be getting 2 more squadrons coming from the East Coast. They'll be relocated to Naval Air Station Lemoore, and that will increase our population by about 8 to 10%. So we're growing.
Yeah.
And next month we'll find out if the air station is selected by the Secretary of the Navy to be the Navy's home base for the F-35C, the Joint Strike Fighter. It's between El Centro and Lemoore, and it's going up before the Secretary of the Navy, and we should have a decision next month. So that's exciting.
Is the general feeling is they want that, or are they going, well, okay, that's cool, but where are we going to put all this stuff? Is there a lot of building construction being thought of in order to handle all this?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. We're going to need to do about $250 million in upgrades, and El Centro needed to do about 750, or needs to do about 750 million in upgrades to support the next generation of strike aircraft.
Oh, and therefore Lemoore looks probable.
Lemoore is the preferred alternative.
Yes.
But there has not been a decision made. We're real careful about that.
Right,
That's something that's very delicate, and it's with the Secretary of the Navy.
Right. So what else is going on at Lemoore?
Oh gosh, there's always a lot going on. Something I wanted to talk about for your audience in particular, veterans in general and our retirees. I know you must have retirees who watch the program.
Right.
But in this post 9/11 world, I wanted to talk a little bit about base security and base access. Base access is for Department of Defense ID card holders. Some veterans, they have not retired, so they don't get an ID card when they walk out the door.
Right.
And unless someone has a sponsor, they're not allowed on base. And that's basically the bottom line. And if someone doesn't have a reason to be there.
Okay, folks, this is true for every military base, United States military base. I don't care where it's at. You have to have a Department of Defense ID card. And many of our noble men and women served, but they didn't retire, and they're not over 100% service-connected disabled like myself and many other vets, so you're not going to get that Department of Defense ID. Now, prior to 9/11, you could probably go on. The world has changed, so this isn't meant to irk any noble veterans, but we have to think about security, and that's for Army, Air Force, any kind of military base. You just simply cannot go on.
Sure. And, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be terrorist. It's for
Right.
a variety of reasons that there's a lot of billions in property.
Right.
And the highest priority are people and their families. We
Right.
have residents who live on the base, and sailors
Well, yeah, let's
and
face it,
Marines.
let's be honest, all Americans know we have our own homegrown weirdos. So, you know, you got to be secure. And you're talking about military bases? Yeah. That's a good point. So you heard it here. Anything else?
You're welcome to, well, you know, I know people like to see the aircraft. We haven't had an air show in a couple of years, and I don't see one in our immediate future, at least not for 2015 or 2014. So
Now-
hopefully we'll be able to get an air show and anybody can come out to the base and watch the.
Now, did you want to say something to the local population? The Navy hospital, did it ever see retirees come in and use their facilities?
Yes, yes,
is
at the
that-
clinics and the pharmacies.
Okay,
Yes.
because the hospital is actually, what's happening with the hospital?
They're doing a little reorganization. They're taking out the inpatient services that was primarily for pregnancies, and they're converting that space into an outpatient surgical center. And then our pregnancies will go into Hanford to the Adventist.
This isn't unusual. When I lived in Bremerton, Washington area of Washington State for many years, the Tacoma, known as American Lake VA Hospital, simply decided it was better, since Fort Lewis was so close, to have patients go, if you were in an emergency, if a vet had an emergency situation and had that ID card, they could get treated at Madigan Army Hospital at Fort Lewis. So, you know what, wherever you live, before you get in the car and drive, maybe you better, to save gas. Gas is precious these days. Check it out and make sure you're not going to end up being disappointed, because something could be one way for decades upon decades, and then for whatever reason it changes.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And these are some significant changes that have come down, but it's a streamlining method, and the
That's
Navy
right.
is doing it across the country.
Right, I'm sure that pertains to every branch of military service. Okay, so let's talk about you now. You grew up where?
I grew up in Arizona, between the small town of Wilcox, one stoplight when I was there. I think they have 3 now.
Oh.
And Scottsdale. My parents were separated, so I spent part of the time in the city and part of the time in the country.
Well, of course, I always ask this question of women vets, is what made you decide to go in the military? Because a lot of men, they were drafted, or they wanted to do their duty, or they had a long history of dad, grandfather, it was just something their family did. But most women don't have a history of mothers as veterans. A very few do. So why did you go in, Melinda?
Well, it was either go in the Navy or go to jail. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Do we want to
The
edit
recruiter
that?
kept calling. The recruiter
I
kept
see.
calling.
Uh-huh.
I had a decent test score, and you know, was taking college classes here and there. Didn't really have any direction, and
Right.
at the last minute, I changed from the Air Force to the Navy because I thought the Navy, at least, I would be stationed near the water, and I have a better duty station.
Oh, I see.
And I liked the black uniforms.
Right, right. Actually, I joined because I liked the Navy. The winters were navy blues, and the summers was a light blue. Well, okay, that leads us. When did you go in? I went in 71, and I think you're about 10, 12 years after me, aren't
I
you?
am 10 years after you, 1981,
Oh,
about
okay.
3 weeks after my 21st birthday.
Oh, okay. I was 18 and as green as you could be. I wanted that GI Bill. That was a carrot for me. I desperately wanted to go to college.
I still have GI Bill benefits right now post 9/11 GI Bill, and that is a very lucrative benefit package. So I have about 5 more years to use that. So I need to get into
now
school.
explain to my audience, does that apply to every vet that's post 9/11? Because I'm always encouraging vets to use their educational benefits.
There is a, if you served active duty after 9/11, there is a benefits package that you should be eligible for. You have to serve, a certain amount of time.
Right, right.
I was a reservist post 9/11, but I was 3 years active duty, so I'm eligible for the maximum.
Oh, okay.
And what the really great benefit of that is you receive a stipend, which is equivalent to E5 basic housing allowance
Right.
for your zip code. And it's proportionate to if you're going to school quarter time, half time, full time.
Right. And
So
that's going to
that's-
vary from college to college. Okay, well, I'm pretty much assured since my son was post 9/11 and he got his master's, I believe he's used his up.
Maybe he'll go for his PhD.
Yeah, he could, I suppose. I'll have to tell him you better look into that. Okay, so where did you go to Navy boot camp?
Orlando, Florida.
Uh-huh.
And that summer in Orlando, kind of warm there. Humid.
Well, yeah, Arizona can be quite hot, but I would think the humidity factor would be, oh my God.
It was different.
Yeah, I bet it was. Yeah. Was that the hardest thing you did in your life up to that point, going through boot camp?
Probably. And then when you're finished with it, you have such a sense of accomplishment.
Don't you?
And you're like, oh, that wasn't so hard. I could do that again.
I felt like I accomplished more at boot camp than I did in high school. And I fast-tracked high school because my mother's child support was going to be over the minute I turned 18, and I'd be mid-year.
Oh, gosh.
So I went to summer school every summer and took extra classes so she wouldn't be left holding the bag, so
Aw,
to speak.
bless
So
your
yeah, so they don't do that anymore in divorce things anymore because too many kids were like me, that's left hanging in the wind at mid-year. So yeah, it was truly a sense of accomplishment. But I have to admit, I do not miss, I don't remember if we had to get up at 10 before 5 or 10 after 5. It used to be, oh my God in heaven. I had to pray to Jesus to get me out of that wreck. I'm just not an early bird. I was so glad to get out and get up at a normal time to go to work, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I slept pretty well because we had pretty rigorous days.
Oh yeah, you had no problem falling asleep. You were absolutely beyond exhausted. So did you go to an A school?
I did not go to an A school.
Neither did
I was
I.
an undesignated seaman recruit, and when I got my orders there, this is where my charmed Forrest Gump adventures I was telling you about began. Boot camp to the Pentagon as an undesignated E1. I could type.
So you went straight from boot camp to the Pentagon?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
I had
Okay.
some college and I could type. I guess that was the
Oh yeah.
that was the bonus.
Well, how did you like that? How long were you there? Did you become a yeoman or a personnelman?
I was there for 2 years, and I worked as a clerk, and I worked for the Navy Chief of Information, who's the Chief of Navy Public Affairs. So I fell into journalism, and it was a mandatory school. So I stayed at the Pentagon for 2 years, where I got really good public affairs experience,
Uh-huh.
and then went on to school, about 6 months of school.
Okay, I'm jealous because I wanted that journalism JO school, and I was told you'd either get the journalism school you wanted or you'd get one of your 3 choices of your base. All my bases I picked was California, so you can imagine my shock when I got North Fork, Virginia. I think I was the only girl that left with big rubber red stamped on my orders, cancel, await orders.
Oh.
So I went home, but after a week I thought, you know what, I don't want to use up a whole month of leave time at home. So my mother drove me up to Moffett Field and it was taken care of. Moffett Field has since folded. It doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, I ended up in California, but it wasn't any of that. So yeah, it's finally nice to meet someone who made it into journalism school. So how were you able to use that? Because I was told one of the reasons I didn't get it is because I couldn't go aboard a ship. Although my company commander was a journalist. She was a second class
I don't
JO.
know. They had journalists on ships.
Yes, they
This
do.
closed circuit television. Yeah, I
Right.
could go on a ship. I wasn't. Oh, we could go on ships in 1981.
Well, see, I
We were
have to
just going on to ships.
Yeah,
ladies
I
and
was the cusp of old Navy, evidently, because I meet gals who are you know, they're not 30 years younger than me. They're maybe 10. And their opportunities was way broader than what I was offered.
Well, the service academies just graduated women in, was it 1981 or 82?
Mhm.
So it's just been in our generation that women have graduated from the service academies.
Right,
So now women are going to submarines.
right.
And
I have to admit, I think I'd feel very claustrophobic on a submarine. I'm sure I wouldn't pass the test to go in.
yes,
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be for me either. I
Yeah.
always said journalist was the best job in the Navy, and you
Mhm.
hope that everyone has found their niche, and they say that.
So as a journalist, did this take you to foreign countries?
Oh, sure. And I was print, broadcast, electronic journalism, so I got all the schools knocked out at once. But I went to a ship in Norfolk, was my first duty station out of A school.
Uh-huh.
And in that time, I was sent to a rapid deployment force radio and TV station in Honduras,
Oh.
where there was an Army camp set up. And the Navy was the only service that had this rapid deployment force Connex box with a couple of turntables and pop in your 3/4-inch videotapes. And news came from Panama 2 days late. They'd record it for us and then fly it up. So it was pretty
I just can't
interesting.
imagine being in the Navy and even thinking about going to Honduras. Did that catch you by surprise, or was that something you were aware of?
I knew it was going on because we'd had one of those rapid deployment force vans in Lebanon, and we'd lost some journalists, actually, some broadcasters. So I think I volunteered for it.
Oh, okay. And how long did you end up staying there?
It was a summer. It was just a 90-day tour.
Were
Really
you ever
interesting.
concerned about your welfare?
No,
Okay.
sadly, because we were on. Of course, I'm the per diem queen. Sorry, the Navy, we received per diem because we worked unusual hours. So
Right.
I'd check out a truck. I'd drive to town about 5 miles away on the Pan Am Highway, blonde, and just go about my business, shopping, and like nothing was wrong. And it was really kind of a
I was going to say,
scary
wasn't-
time. The Contras
you-
and the Sandinistas.
That's what I'm
and-
thinking.
But force protection wasn't what it is today.
I think you must have had some
No
guarding-
buddy system. You know,
Yeah,
you go on
yeah.
Liberty today, you go out, if you're overseas, especially coming off of a ship, you sign off the ship with your Liberty buddy, and you better be coming back with that Liberty buddy.
Yeah, I think some guardian angels are watching over you. So when you left,
think so.
so when you left Honduras, where was the next journey? You were there 90 days. Where'd you go after that?
Well, that was, went back to the ship, and then after the ship, I went to San Diego to a Navy Broadcasting Service Fleet Support Detachment. We were producing stories out of San Diego for a weekly Navy news program. So I was the producer for that. And then after that, I went to Italy.
Italy.
Italy for 2 years was my last duty station
Oh.
on active duty.
That must have been, well, one of my majors is history, and obviously when you're talking about the Roman Empire, that's a long stretch of history right there. Did you get a chance to take advantage and look at all those great historic sites?
Oh, definitely. It was it was epic. It was an epic time.
Right.
I was near Venice, about 40 miles from Venice. You know, get on the train, go to Venice every weekend or whenever, and spend some time in Florence and on the western coast, Pisa. Naples is always fun. It's,
Did you send your family lots of postcards that they've collected in a big album?
postcards, olive oils,
Yeah.
pottery.
Uh-huh.
So,
How did you like living in Italy? Did you pick up any of the language?
poco parlo italiano, poco. I should have
Okay.
learned more than a little.
Uh-huh.
But I had a great apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 balconies. It was in a 4-plex. I had Italian neighbors. And
Right.
what I really liked about that, you know, like an ice cream truck comes down your street, they had a produce truck that came down the street. You could buy fresh produce off the truck. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Right.
That's $1 million idea. Someone
Right.
should take that and run with it.
Right, right.
And this is the right valley to do that in, huh?
Yes. Well, pray for water, and it'll continue to be so.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
We have
really.
about 12,000 acres that surround the air station, and we lease the land to farmers, and it's some scary times for our water in the San Joaquin Valley, that's for sure.
It certainly is. So when you left Italy, You say that's when you were discharged from active Navy duty?
When I left Italy, I got out of the Navy because I was going to go be Barbara Walters. You know, I was
Oh,
on TV. I was doing
right,
the news for the
right,
Navy every night.
right.
And
Well, you certainly had a
I was at the
resume.
peak of my career in the Navy.
right.
Why I was almost halfway to retirement. I was at that 9-year mark, and I got out of the Navy. But then I still ended up working for the government in a contract way. I went to the Marshall Islands. The Armed Forces Radio and Television Service was the only contractor Armed Forces Radio and Television Service station. So I went to the Marshall Islands.
Now tell our viewers where the Marshall Islands are, because if they don't have World War II Navy history, uncle or dad that went by them, they don't have a clue. So tell our viewers where the
Marshall Islands, they're in Micronesia, and that is halfway between Hawaii and Australia, around Wake Island, out in that region.
Right.
Kwajalein Atoll is the world's largest atoll, and that's where we test the old Star Wars program. We would have incoming from Vandenberg Air Force Base, travel 5,000 miles in 20 minutes, and land in our lagoon. And we'd get up in the middle of the night to watch, you know, the missile tests.
I guess you were very confident that it was going to land in the lagoon and not on the island and blow you guys all to smithereens.
Well, they weren't armed.
Yeah, oh, okay. Okay, thank you, Jesus. I'm sitting here thinking I'd be so terrified. Okay, I'm glad
So it's
you
a big,
said-
it's a large
Right.
missile range out there. And,
Right.
On that part of the world, the missile range trackers, that's where they track the space shuttles when they're in that part of the world, going over that part of the Earth.
And what did you do with this? You said you was a contractor. What was your job in regard to
Radio, TV, you know, we had 2 television stations, and you had to record the live news that was coming in, say, the Today Show. I can't even remember when it would come in, maybe overnight, and so you'd record the Today Show to show it at maybe a normal time, and different sporting events, so you would record and play back those at normal times, also on
Right.
radio. I was a DJ.
Right.
Then there was a paper. I worked
So
at
you
the
kind of
paper.
became the Bubba Walters of the Navy. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. So you did get part of your dream fulfilled then.
Sure, sure.
Good.
It was fun, too.
Right, right. And then after the Marshall Islands?
And then was still in the reserves at that time. Bought a radio station in a small town. I was a partner in a radio station for a while.
Okay.
I worked in Colorado Springs as a news director. I was Don Imus's news break in Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to Bosnia for 9 months out of Colorado Springs.
9 months. Was this at a time when Bosnia was experiencing some real horrific incidents?
Well, it was just at the beginning of what was the stabilization force. So it was at the stabilization time, and you know, we had a coalition of 32 different nations. I worked at the Coalition Press Information Center, so that's where, say, the NATO Secretary General would go for his press conferences when he was in Sarajevo. And beautiful country.
You sound like you were so busy. Did you have time to have a family, or that just
Well,
didn't
you know,
happen?
I got to a certain point and was like, oh no, I forgot to have kids.
Okay. But you sound like you had a really wonderful adventures.
A lot of adventures.
Yeah.
And just being in, you know, now after that, being at the wrong place at the right time, or vice versa.
Right.
Of course, I was in the Middle East on 9/11 for my 2-week Navy Reserve duty, so 2 weeks turned into 14 months.
Oh my God.
I went to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii to fill in on a pregnancy relief to work the Pro Bowl. And it was right when the tsunami happened. Next thing, I'm flying to Thailand, going out to the USS Abraham Lincoln, and handling media, handling different things. And I was a videographer on a mission over Indonesia when we went on a food delivery mission. And I'll tell you what, that was probably the most significant event in my Navy career. You know, flying away from these people who've
Lost
suffered this
everything.
devastation. They've lost everything.
They've lost-
And the way that they would do it, you know, the Navy helicopters would try and group people together because they're displaced, they're in the hills, they'd be onesies and twosies. So we would try to get them together as community. So we'd have one drop off for the water. We were taking them water and food and
Well, thank God you were there, and thank God for the U.S. Navy to be in that area so they don't have to wait 2 weeks to get whatever it is they need.
I
Well,
was just documenting it, so.
you know, we're about to wrap this up, but I
We
suggest...
are? That was fast.
This 28 minutes goes very fast. We're down to 2.
Oh, I love it.
You need to write a book.
Oh, maybe I will.
Yeah, truly. It would be fascinating for your
Thank
nieces,
you.
nephews, kids, whatever. It would really be fascinating.
Thank you.
Men write about their experiences. You need... Yeah, you really do seem to...
I'm a
have-
journalist.
Yeah, I was going to say, you clearly have the talent to do that. Yeah, do
Thank
that.
you.
Do that. Do you have any parting words to our audience before we sign off?
Go Navy.
That's good. Okay, thank you, Melinda, for joining us. And I want to sign off with reminding you that pray for those families that are taking care of our disabled vets. God bless you. Until next time, this is PJ Scott with the wonderful Navy woman, Melinda Larson.
Thank you.
God bless you.